The minutes of the last meeting on April 11th was emailed to everyone. Did everyone have a chance to review those? Any corrections that need to be made?
I move we approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Our first matter of discussion today is case DRB 2022-16. It's a presentation of public art installation on the building located at 218 North Dargan Street, tax map number 90170-04-015, located in the H1 Historic Overlay District. Staff?
Good afternoon. This is as I said, a public art installation. A wall mural has been proposed for the north side of 218 North Dargan Street, which is the building behind Ideal Funeral Parlor on Darlington Street. And it is the former location of the Lincoln Theater, and is currently, has been for about the last 40 or 50 years, the Thompson's Barber School. And Mr. William Thompson Jr. has found an artist. He wants to put a mural on the side of that wall to honor the African American history of the block, as well as his father's contribution to the neighborhood through the building. And Thompson's Barber School is an ongoing business there. And as you can see, it is next to the vacant lot behind the Ideal Funeral Parlor. It's zoned DS, which is, I'm just blanking. Thank you, dear. Destination select use. We don't use it too often. So here's a picture of the building as it stands, and then with the proposed mural superimposed upon it. And it has been designed by some local artists, and then they are going to, the plan for the timeline is that they will spend the spring here preparing the wall, and the downtown coordinator has looked at the way they're going to apply it, and it is in keeping with recommendations of the historic districts and the people that do these things, so they're in approval of it so that it won't damage the brick. And they're going to be putting them on panels and then adhering those to the brick. So they're going to be doing mural painting with children, and people from the community will have an opportunity to paint a portion of it throughout the summer, and then they'll prepare it and install it hopefully early this fall, and then have a dedication of it at that time. So that's what's going on. They wanted to let you know, just so you all were prepared for it.
I do want to mention that the artist is Herman Keith. He is an artist. He's originally from Anderson, South Carolina. He has a studio in Orangeburg. And he worked with a team to develop some concepts that were bounced off of the property owners, business owners in the area, as well as the Arts Commission and staff here. So it was, and we met with him. He's a very interesting, likable fella. I encourage you to Google him too. His art is quite interesting. His name's Herman Keith.
Okay. Is that just for information purposes, Jerry?
Yeah.
So there's nothing we need to discuss on that? Okay, well then, that being the case, our first case for public hearing today would be case DRB 2022-17. It's a request for a certificate of appropriateness to demolish the building located at 175 North Dorgan Street, tax map number 90167-02-019, located in the H1 Historic Overlay District.
Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself from this.
Okay. Michael's recused. Okay, staff?
All right. Thank you all. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm presenting this as one project, but it is actually two cases, which will be the demolition of the existing building and construction of a new 3-story building. So here's the vicinity map. We're on North Dargan Street. This is in the historic overlay district. And it is in the central business district. So here are the existing site photos. This is the 1-story building that the applicant is proposing to demolish. It's 1,400 square feet, 1 story, And the owner would like to construct a 3-story building in its place. The first floor being a commercial spot, a jewelry store, and then the second and third floors residential living apartment space. And the applicant did receive permission from the Historical Commission to demolish 175 North Dargan Street just yesterday. So they do have permission to demolish. So here is one of the facade proposals. This is the brick proposal for V Latin Jewelers. And here's sort of a 3D rendering. They're also proposing this EIFS with stucco finish. And their choice will be based on, I think there are some design elements that went into consideration. Also, I think availability of material and also some options for design review board to pick which design they would prefer. Here's some material specifications that are going to be presented. These will be, first you have the brick, which the material specifications, the engineer and the applicant have asked that these be kind of guidance for what the final materials will be, just based on what they can get their hands on. They want to keep everything in keeping with the downtown area. They want it to complement other buildings around them. So they want to get materials very similar to these, if not exactly these. But the brick color may vary. The color of the stucco may vary. So here's the brick option, the stucco option. They will have storefront windows, and they'll all be trimmed in the black metal, kind of like what you'll see on Collins and Almers nearby. Second and third floor windows will be black vinyl. And then on the rear of the building, they'll obviously have a security door for the first floor for the commercial space. And then down below, the more residential doors, wooden doors, similar to this design and pattern for the apartments. They are proposing a black awning, similar to the one that is shown on this Starbucks picture. And the railing and the columns on the exterior, they want to finish in a black powder coating. The roof they're proposing is standard seam metal, either a dark gray or a black, and then they want to add the coping on the top of the wall in dark gray and black to match the roof. So as far as the design guidelines, the existing building will be demolished and a new building is proposed either with the brick or the EIFS facade option with the materials that we just looked over. They want to match or complement the character of existing and renovated buildings in the historic overlay district. The existing facade is most likely mid-century and was not a contributing structure to the historic district. The storefront will be reconstructed. It will have large expanses of glazing trimmed with the wide black metal that we just looked at. And then the top two floors will both be two-bedroom apartments. So a two-bedroom apartment, second floor, and on the third floor. The wide metal black framing is meant to mimic that of other storefronts. Collins and Almers comes to mind at 155 North Dargan Street. The upper floors have symmetrical windows with facade accents, decorative cornice, belt course, window hoods, and appears to provide interest. The building will also have a black metal awning overhanging the storefront. The proposed building will have 3 stories. On the same block are the Mangum and Nofel buildings, which are each 2 stories. And then the Crest building, 3. Hyatt Place is 4-story. Windows on the ground floor, front of the building, will be storefront style with black metal finish with vertical and horizontal crossbars. They'll have residential windows on the left and right elevation to add visual interest. And again, those will be black vinyl. And the rear facade has a commercial security door, which will be painted black on the first floor. In the second and third floor, in the rear, they'll have vinyl sliding glass doors and residential wooden doors also for entrances. The roof will be flat in keeping with the architectural styles of other buildings in the downtown. They proposed a metal standing seam roof, either black or dark gray, and then the brick parapet surrounding the roof will step down gradually from Dargan Street towards the rear, and they do propose that black or dark gray metal coping along the top of the wall to match the roof. The proposed building will be 3 stories in height. The buildings directly adjacent will be 1 story, but again, in the district, there are buildings up to 4 stories. And the proposal is compatible with the majority of other commercial buildings in the downtown historic district, which are brick or stucco, have 1 to 4 stories, have storefront windows and doors, and the proposed exterior materials are earth-toned, accented with dark gray or black metal for doors, windows, and fencing material. And that does conclude staff's report.
Anyone have any questions of staff? Anyone here to speak on this matter?
I can, and Mr. Velasquez, the owner's here if anybody needs us to.
Anyone have any questions of Michael? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and open it up for discussion or vote.
I think this is a wonderful project. I think almost all the 1-story buildings in downtown probably should, their highest and best use is for them to be demolished. I think that they don't contribute to the historic nature, so I think that this is exactly what a lot of the buildings like this should happen. My only architectural hat concern is, could you go to the elevation, please?
Yes, sir. Did you want the brick or did you
The brick is
stucco
good.
brick? Yes, sir.
Um,
How about that one?
Well, the pure elevation, that one.
Yes, sir.
I do encourage the owner to go with the brick if he can make it work. I think it's a better material, but certainly I understand budget, and if budget doesn't allow you to do the brick, I think that the ephes can be done equally as well as from an aesthetic standpoint, but I don't think it's quite as stable, long term. My only concern architecturally is I think that if you look in design guidelines, it speaks to trying to make these urban buildings more vertical in design. I think that this seems to be kind of horizontal in its kind of composition, and this is not a directive, but I would encourage the owner to go with 3 windows on each floor instead of 2. I think it would have better proportions and it would allow it to give you that verticality. Those are my only concerns. I'm 100% in support of the building. I think the elevation could be a little more proportioned, especially as you look at some of the examples that the design guidelines speak to about what's good, what's not good, what you should lean towards. But that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you.
To answer that, do I need to go stand down there, or am I good?
No, that's
okay. To answer that, because the concept is here. If we need to change some tweaks or reliefs, I would request we allow that to be done through staff down the road. We can certainly do some tweaking and changing and get it better. Sure, it's just Carlos wants to tear the building down. You want to see it going. So, the last little bit of relief design, that's one of the final parts of finishing the building off. So that's not a big deal.
We actually had in mind have the 3 windows
Great.
in front of the building.
I think it could be. It's a great building. I think it could be better.
Yeah, exactly.
And Scott, drawing on some architectural expertise again, one suggestion that came out of staff was potentially, since we're looking at 2 different material choices there, 2 options would maybe to be a combination of the 2, where the first story was ephes and then the next 2 stories were brick. We've seen quite a number of buildings like that around. I don't know if that would be appropriate as well. But
I think that is. If you go out the elevation, one other thing that I was looking at the weight of the brick on the second and third floors seems to put a lot of pressure, visual pressure on that first floor. It doesn't seem like it's being supported. I think that the very outside of the first floor, kind of the legs, if you will, could be thickened up, and I think it would, and the glass kind of pushed in a little bit, and I think it could feel a little more stable. Right now it looks like it's going to kind of crash through the glass. So I think it could be a little beefier down there. So again, these are tweaks that I think that during the course of, and obviously these are conceptual drawings. When it gets developed, I think you could address all these things, and it could be, again, it could be its best. But I agree with that too, Jerry, that I think that changing materials, the only problem with using EFS down at the first floor level, it's one of the worst materials from a durability standpoint, because it doesn't have that resistance. So you'll find that buildings that have EFS down at that first level sometimes get damaged. So I would certainly encourage it to be a material that would hold up to somewhat of abuse, because it is kind of an abusive height.
Right. Okay, any other discussion? Do we have a motion?
I move that the project be approved both from a demolition standpoint as well as a building design standpoint. I do think that, with the exception that the owner would work to implement some of the suggestions, and those suggestions could be worked through with staff.
Do we have a motion?
I think that was, wasn't it?
It was. I said
I'll
we had a
second.
motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. The certificate to be issued. Carlos, you can go tear down the building. Congratulations. Our next case is case DRB 2022-18. It's a request for a certificate of appropriateness for a new construction located at 175 North Dargan Street, tax map number 90167-02019, located in the H1 Historic Overlay District.
Actually, it's 19.
We can
We
go.
already did that one.
Okay. Okay, so those are
Those are
the two cases.
So
Okay.
we're on to number 6,
Okay.
which is number 5 in PowerPoint.
So the next case is 19?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks. Case number DRB 2022-19 is a request for a certificate of appropriateness to replace the roof of the building located at 531 West Evans Street, tax map number 90073-11-024, located in the D1 Redevelopment Overlay District. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the board. The applicant is requesting a certificate of appropriateness to replace the shingle roof with a metal roof on the building located at 531 West Evans Street. According to the vicinity map, the property is located on West Evans Street between Chase and Sanborn Street. The current zoning map identifies the parcel as commercial reuse, which is intended for low-impact commercial uses that are in small scale. And these are the site photos. The site photo to the left kind of shows the damage of the shingle roof, and the picture to the right is pretty much the underlaying that the contractor put to kind of prevent water damage. And these are site photos of commercial properties that have metal roofs in the vicinity. The first picture is in the 1000 block of West Evans, and the other two pictures, the center and to the right, are in the 700 block of West Evans. However, these properties are not in our overlay district. And this is pretty much a site photo of 306 Worley Street, which the design board approved back in 2018. And this is pretty much a sample material of the proposed metal roof, and it's pretty much a copper bronze metal roof that the applicant is proposing. According to the design guidelines, I'm not going to read everything, I'm just going to read just a few points. The historic and significant character of the property should be retained and preserved. The scope of work to the building and the grounds includes The applicant is proposing to install a metal roof on the property that will replace the damaged shingle roof. A new addition and adjacent or related new construction should be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the original property and the environment will be unimpaired. The proposed metal roof addition can be approved at any time in the future. Chemical or physical treatment that cause damage to or cover the original materials may not be used unless approved by the design review board. This replaces the current roof, but it is unlikely that the existing roof was the original. The design of the roof should be compatible with architectural styles and character of existing buildings and surrounding structures. The building is a repurposed single-family house, so a metal roof is not out of character with the structure itself nor the surrounding buildings. When appropriate, the architectural details, color, materials, and texture should be compatible with the style and character of surrounding buildings and structures. The architectural details and character of the surrounding buildings and structures vary. In the 700 block of West Evans Street, 2 commercial buildings have metal roofs. Also, in the 1000 block of West Evans Street, 1 commercial property has a metal roof. However, D3 commercial property outside of the D1 redevelopment overlay district. This concludes staff's report. Are there any questions?
Any questions of staff? Anyone else here to speak in this matter? We'll go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up for discussion or a motion.
Move to approve as submitted.
You have a motion?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Certificate will be issued. Our next public hearing is case DRB 2022-20. It's a request for a certificate of appropriateness to construct a carport at 227 South McQueen Street, tax map number 90074-07-028, located in the D1 redevelopment overlay district. Staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, again. The applicant is requesting a certificate of appropriateness to construct a carport located at 227 South McQueen Street. According to the vicinity map, the property is located between West Chevy Street and West Palmetto Street. The current zoning map identifies the property in the central business district, which is intended for development and redevelopment of residential, commercial, and mixed-use buildings in the downtown area. And this is pretty much a site plan of the area view site plan. The proposed carport will be on the right side behind the laundry room, which is an accessory building. And these are site photos of the property. The first picture is pretty much the front of the building. The middle picture is pretty much their laundry room where they wash clothes, which the carport will be not directly behind, but it will be behind the accessory building. And the third picture is pretty much like an illustration of what the carport will look like. According to the design guidelines, the historic and significant character of the property should be retained and preserved. The scope of work to the building and grounds includes the PD Coalition is proposing to install a 12 by 21 open carport that will be placed in the rear of the property. The open carport will be behind the small washing room in the rear of the property. Distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples that characterize a property should be preserved. The carport will have a gable and the roof will match the existing commercial building, which is the laundry room. The open carport will be located behind the small washing room in the rear of the property. New additions and adjacent or related new construction should be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the original property and its environment will be unimpaired. The proposed carport can be removed at any time in the future. The visual relationship of open space between buildings or structures should be compatible with the adjacent buildings or structure. The roof of the carport will match the existing commercial building roof. The design of the roof should be compatible with architectural styles and characters of existing buildings and surrounding structures. The design of the proposed carport roof will have a small gable which will match the roof of the existing laundry building. When appropriate, the architectural details, colors, materials, texture should be compatible with the style and character of the surrounding buildings and structures. The proposed carport will be metal, and the roof of the carport will match the existing commercial building in the rear. And this concludes staff report.
Anyone have any questions of staff? Anyone here to speak in the matter? We'll close the public hearing and open it up for discussion or a motion.
I've got a question.
Sure.
Is there anything that prohibits this from happening in this location?
No. I had looked and see were there any other carports in the vicinity, and I didn't find anything in the vicinity. I know the applicant did make a statement. I can read the statement that she did make in terms of a carport. And according to Ms. Resch, she's over the PD coalition, and she states, they need a carport to protect their vehicles and clients. This is a safe house for victims of domestic, family, and sexual violence. Having a covered vehicle protects the life of the vehicle as well as the clients. That's the statement she made regarding the carport.
I think now Central Methodist has one, but I think they're just outside the district on Cheddar Street, isn't that?
Well, they would be in the district.
Okay. Yeah, they've got one. Okay.
I think we would obviously prefer it to be a stick-built wooden, shingle structure that match the building and the site more appropriately. But where it's located will be pretty well shielded from public view. They do have a fence and the shed and a fair amount of vegetation. So if it were not in the overlay district, we wouldn't have an issue with it at all. But because it's in the overlay district and it's a prefabricated metal shed, we felt it should come before the board.
I do think that its location is so discreet and makes no impact on the street view, and in my opinion, it's not an ideal feature, but it's so practical and it's so far back that I personally don't have a real problem with it.
I agree with that.
And even the fence is it's a little over 5 feet tall.
And I would say for future issues, as much as we want to protect the large trees in these areas, you also have to have a way for people to protect their property from those branches and all. And as long as it doesn't become a feature seen from the road, the main thing is for people to be able to protect their vehicles so we can keep all these nice, beautiful trees.
I'll make a motion we approve it as requested.
Have a second? All in favor? Motion carries and the certificate will be issued. Our last case for public hearing today is case DRV 2022-21. Request for a certificate of appropriateness to install security bars on the building located at 137 East Palmetto Street, tax map number 90087-03-002, located in the D3 Arts and Cultural Overlay District. Staff?
Mr. Chairman, I need to recuse myself from this.
Okay. Mike was recused.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is requesting a certificate of appropriateness to install security bars on the building located at 137 East Palmetto Street. According to the vicinity map, the property is between South Darken Street and Railroad Avenue, which intersects Railroad Avenue. The current zoning map identifies the property in the central business district, which is intended for development and redevelopment of buildings in the downtown area. And this is pretty much a site photo from the building. If you see, according to the photo, there are 8 security bars on each window. This is pretty much a close-up view of the security bars, and they're pretty much perpendicular. And that's all 8 of them. And these are site photos of what has happened to the applicant's business. The picture to the far left, that's a billet hole. Somebody shot it to the applicant's property. And the other three properties, as you can see, somebody pretty much destroyed the storefront window. And I got these pictures from the police department. Their dash cam. According to the design guidelines, the historic and significant character of the property should be retained and preserved. The scope of work to the building and grounds includes the installation of 8 security bars on 8 windows on the front of the building. The applicant has already installed security bars without DRB approval. The commercial building is not historically significant. Distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples that characterize a property should be preserved. The installation of 8 security bars will prevent individuals from breaking into and damage the applicant's commercial property. New additions and adjacent or related new construction should be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the original property and its environment would be unimpaired. The security bars can be removed in the future if necessary. The only addition to the building itself are the security bars. The proportions and relationship between doors and windows should be compatible with the architectural style and character of the building and surrounding buildings. The applicant installed security bars on the front windows to protect his business from being robbed and damaged. The windows themselves are not changed. When appropriate, the architectural details, colors, materials, and texture should be compatible with the style and character of the surrounding buildings and structures. The security bars consist of a black 1.5-inch powder-coated metal. And this concludes staff's report.
Anyone have any questions of staff?
So there's nothing in the design guidelines that speaks to security bars in arts and cultural overlay district. Is that correct?
That's correct. I know in the historical overlay district, this is not allowed.
Right. Yeah. In the overarching guidelines, it does state that, and I'll just read, it says consideration of safety must be taken into account, but whenever possible, the use of open security grates or grilles or special thick glass rather than roll down solid metal doors is recommended in order to make the street attractive even when stores are closed. And in the H1 district, it ratchets down and says that the security grates are acceptable on side or rear windows, but not on front facade.
So if we take historic overlay district out of play because we're not in there, and the only thing that speaks to it is the passage you read, then it is in compliance.
That's right. There is some conflicting language in the Unified Development Code, in the underlying zoning ordinance, that speaks to specialty uses. And specialty uses, this is not defined as a specialty use, but the specialty uses are defined as tattoo parlors, title loan establishments, paraphernalia shops, things of that nature, and pawn shops, things of that nature, that they are not allowed on these type buildings, which kind of speaks to, in the central business district, which kind of speaks to the intent of the code, but specifically does not outline, that this particular use, the use of this building is a restaurant and alcohol beverage store for off-site consumption.
Are there other buildings in the area that have bars on windows?
Not that we're aware of. Not in the immediate vicinity, just the church.
I don't think so, no. I can't recall right off the bat.
So, when you said it kind of speaks to, is the intent for carving out exceptions of those businesses to not attract the type of businesses that would need bars on their windows?
That may be the purpose of that as well, is not to totally exclude the bars, but to dissuade those types of businesses from locating. But again, this particular business is not listed in specialty use. And that's the only reference in the Unified Development Code to the security bars.
Any other questions of staff? Anyone here to speak on the matter? You want to come up to the podium, Pauline?
Hi, good afternoon.
Okay. State your name.
Mathur Chada. So I'm here regarding the security bars. I have the liquor store right next to the restaurant, so I have like 3 times, someone tried to break in, and one time saw already the pictures. That's the only purpose, Yes, sir.
When did you put the bars up?
What? A few weeks now.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I have a lot of inventory, the liquor. So right behind is the liquor store, all the windows.
Anyone have any other questions of him?
Sorry.
That's why I was asking if anybody had any other questions for you, but hearing none. Anybody else here to speak on the matter? Okay, Pauline, you want to step up to the podium?
I'm Pauline Cromitis. I'm the owner of the drive-in restaurant, 301 Drive-In, owner and manager of the business next door. The problem we have, obviously is the sight of metal bars in the building next to us, which in the intent, which in 2007, when we built our building, was the first on this whole district area that we built the building. And, we were the first building going through, one had, in the process of going through this and doing it exactly what we needed to do to conform to what we were building downtown, to which has made Florence much better. And we've just, strived to do our best and keep it, coming in. And now when you have guests, people coming to eat, or, new people flying into town or coming into town and driving through the area past our business, and you see barred windows on one coming through, is not very attractive for our business. And it would, to me and customers coming in, we've already had a lot of people stated a lot of concern. Is it safe here? Is it, we don't want to bring our families here, and especially at night. You're looking at it at night, and you're having people trying to come and look at metal bars on buildings coming in, and it's just not attractive. It's not appropriate for the downtown area. That's not what we're not. Don't want to say in the sense as that's not what we signed up for, but it's not appropriate for what we're trying to do in our part in the downtown area as well. In the same sense, I'm not looking to hurt anybody else's business, but there has to be a different way of, thicker glass or something else to do as a protective, but the attractive of the bars. And literally one morning it was up, it wasn't there. One afternoon when I left, and the next morning I came in, I saw metal bars. It was just that quick. So and that was just a big surprise to us, and I just wanted to make sure I was able to address council today about our concerns about having the metal bars next door for our business. Thank you.
Pauline, I know you have inventory, but you haven't had break-ins, have you?
No, thankfully, no, we haven't had any issues. So, and I never, honestly, I had no idea that they had any issues until I saw pictures. I haven't.
You had like 3 times already.
So, I'm guessing late at night, but we haven't had, and, safety is always a concern, with us leaving the restaurant. We do have cameras for our safety, just, to be on the safe side, and we go out in groups. And, we have cameras up. Our main concern is cameras. It's a good deterrent, for people coming around and coming through. So that's helped us, and thank God that, thankfully that's what's, been good for us.
Thank you, Pauline.
Thank you.
Jerry, we don't have any rules to prevent anything like this from happening, do we?
Are we in this discussion part now?
Yes. Yeah. We'll close the public hearing now. We open it up for discussion.
Yeah, I mean, the most powerful statement or thing that applies here is the overarching rule, and it does say that whenever possible, the use of open security grates or grills or special thick glass rather than the roll-down metal shutters is what, in order to make the street more attractive. Now, you know, it does speak in the historic guidelines to decorative grates, grills and grates, you know, that would be placed over it, and, you know, there are ways to make them more decorative in nature, as opposed to the hard security bars that are in place.
I have a couple of questions. Did you price any other options, whether it's the thicker glass or whatnot? And just so I understand, it sounds like the liquor inventory is what seems to be
There's a lot of inventory.
causing the break-in. And is the liquor just served at the restaurant, or is that a separate business? But it's not part of the businesses listed.
That's right.
That's the same building, but separate business. And
Now-
those bars are the part of the liquor store.
You got to protect your inventory, but I would hate to see, you know, all down Palmetto Street, bars on windows, and, you know, I have a business in there. I'd hate for my neighbors to, you know, I'm trying to, people come to my business and they're trying to move to Florence, and the next door neighbors have bars on their windows. And I think the spirit of the ordinance almost gets there, but it just really doesn't. I think it meant it, but it just didn't say it. And I just think if we're going to have bars on everywhere downtown, that's not what we're looking for. And I understand your plight, I do, because I've had break-ins too. But it seems like there'd be Scott, maybe there's a different way, something you could do. It would.
As usual, I have thoughts on the matter. First of all, I think we need to understand that our charge is to enforce the design guidelines. And we didn't write it, but it's our job to enforce it. So I think that to assign meaning or spirit to written code and ordinance, I think is overreaching our authority. Having said that, what my biggest problem with is what I have complained about on and on is the sequence of this process. It's sort of like whenever we have these trees come before us that have already been cut down, and someone is requesting to cut down a tree. Well, tree's cut down, and it makes it so much more difficult to talk about a measure, a design measure, when it's already done. You know, the way this process is supposed to work is you apply for a review before you do the work. And I understand that a lot of times people don't know that they have to do it.
Don't know that.
But it's a process that is, like a lot of things, it's a process that it's a real process, and it's something that if we do that, then our job is easier, and we can actually talk about alternatives much more realistically without talking about, well, I've already spent all this money on these things. You know, one of the things, I don't know if y'all know, the old public library, which is now Florence 1 administration, it's got bars on the first floor. Probably one of the 3 most handsome buildings in Florence. And I don't think anybody really goes by there worrying about the image of that. So I personally don't have as big a problem with the bars, but I do have a problem with the process, the sequence, and I think that if we had, then there could be a dialogue, and it could be much more constructive, and we could talk about things like security glass in lieu of the grills, and maybe there could have been a compromise or some course of action that could have maybe satisfied all the parties. So that's a long-winded way of saying I don't see anything that would cause me to vote against the proposal, because I don't see anything in the design guidelines to point to anything that would cause me to take that stand.
I think if we, the second thing we approved of the building on 175 North Dargan, I mean, if they'd have come before us and had bars on the windows, we'd have certainly said we don't think that's a good idea, and wouldn't have approved that.
That's because it was in the historic
This is a
district.
historic district.
And it clearly states that it's not allowed.
Right.
I think personally, if this person had come to us last time with this, I would have had the same stand, because we're not a subjective board. We're not really discussing our opinions as much as we are enforcing a document. But having said that, I completely understand with the image that comes with additional ramped up security. I mean, it's human nature. You see bars on windows and you think there's an issue. And you know what? There is an issue.
Well, and that's the big thing lately as a business owner. So I can sympathize with both of you, because we've had issues where we've had to call the police, and whether it's staffing or just bigger things, bigger issues, you feel that it's not the top of the priority. And then I would assume in your case, I don't know how often these things were happening or the time between each one, but even if you know the process, do I have time to go get on the list for a month later to solve this issue before it happens again? But then not only does that affect your business, it affects all the businesses around the business that takes matter into their own hands to solve a problem that they don't think the city has as high of an importance. And I'm careful how I say that, because every police officer that I've interacted with in these situations is doing his or her job the best they can, but they got a million other things on their plate. So, I mean, is that even something a design review board can solve, where it's going to either be good for one business and bad for the other, or vice versa? So I don't know that helps any in this situation, but I was told when I joined this board, part of our job is to also influence some of the ways, I guess, the changes that can be made to the codes.
Is there a way to separate the liquor business from the restaurant business, where you wouldn't have to have bars on the whole thing?
It's already separated. There's a separate door, everything, but those windows for the liquor store.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
the
the
box already separated. Restaurant is on the other side, and the liquor store is on the other side. Different doors, different entrance, everything is separate.
So are there bars on every window?
There's 4 bars.
Are there bars on the restaurant and the liquor store, or just
No, the
liquor?
restaurant is on the entrance is on this side. You got the main door, and those 4 windows that belong right beside that's a liquor store, the whole thing.
The whole front?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to speak on this. I recused myself, but I did the plans to separate the liquor for him, to separate the liquor store from the restaurant. So before it was a full restaurant, and when you walk into the door on the front left, there was a front bay, and then there was another bay. We took the whole front bay and separated that and turned it to the liquor store. So the liquor store, what you see, the 4 windows across the front, is all liquor store. Okay, and then the entrance to the liquor store is on the right-hand side of the building, coming in from that side.
Okay, so the restaurant's behind that.
That's right. So you walk in the front door to the restaurant, but then you go into the restaurant, and then the seating for the restaurant is behind the liquor store, in the middle of the building, if you will. Is that clarify?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Being Michael and Scott, y'all's world in construction and architecture, is there any other options that y'all could possibly recommend for these windows?
I will say that I have put in security windows. I did a gas station a few years ago, and we put in Lexan bulletproof glass, and because they were breaking in and stealing from the beer and cigarettes and stuff from the convenience store. And this was in Waltersburg, not here. But the bulletproof glass Lexan, we had a guy come up with one of those HVAC refill containers and start beating on the Lexan. And actually, he beat on it for about, we saw this on security camera, he beat on it for about 3 minutes. He got tired and walked away because he couldn't break it. But he scratched the glass so badly, it looked terrible. So putting in that bulletproof glass when they don't know this bulletproof glass. All they know is they see glass, they're going to try to break through it. They might not get through it, but they will still scratch it and damage it enough to do that. So the bars are a very good visual deterrent. They see bars, some of them think prison, right? But
You're not going to get in.
You're not going to get in. Whereas if you see a clear glass, you think I can break it, so they're going to try. Could those bars be, and again, I'm trying to recuse myself here, can bars be a little better done, maybe not as visual, possibly? They could have been probably set inside the window frame. However, there's not much, and you could put it behind the glass from the inside, and it would be much less visible. But if he's got like a screen printing on there or something like that, you're not going to see the bar, so they would just have to go ahead and break it anyway. So it's kind of a catch-22 in that situation.
Well, thanks for the suggestions. And Pauline has another suggestion.
Just one question, in finding a different solution, why could that not be a solution to put them on the inside of the bars, so on the inside of the glass? Regardless if anybody wants to break something in our experience, well, they're going to come break it, just break it. I mean, regardless if they see anything, and why, and this is going back how many years ago, when, like I said, when I built my building, we were compliant to whatever needed, and it was, a lot of things were, it was so new back then, there were a lot of opinions put into the design of our building, so it wasn't that it was classified this or that. Well, I could kind of venture off, we had a lot of, we could kind of say this, this would be appropriate, and that was things that were suggested things as well. And I guess, maybe I'm, just looking again, why has that changed if, I'm upkeeping and following the rules and what I need to do for my business, why, if we can't find, we find a common ground or something that we can do, even, and I'm kind of going with you as well, it was done prior to getting approval, so it's like, okay, it's done, don't worry about it. I feel like, if I have to do that, or other business has to do that, and it's just like, well, you got to take it down, and, you got to get it approved. So why can't we find a common ground to do that? I mean, I would not be opposed. Let's put the building, put the metal. I empathize. I mean, I wouldn't want that happening to my business. I'd be concerned. But when it came down to the city of Florence as well, and trying to get the businesses done, because that's our businesses are downtown. The traffic that's downtown for people walking, coming out to eat food, going to the festivals, that is a concern. I mean, that's a concern for the Florence area. So why not make it a different approach to it? Yeah, I mean, okay, bulletproof glass, I can't imagine what the cost of something like that would cost. And then I can sympathize on that. But yeah, why not put the bars on the inside? I mean, make it where you can't see it, but it still, still protects the business as well. Or just maybe find a common ground with that, because it definitely has an impact on my business. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit unusual, not short tenure here, stint. Is that everything we've had somebody come before us and want something approved that was outside of what we had, and we didn't have anybody. Since I've been here, we didn't have anybody that was just against it. And I think when you've got a neighbor that doesn't like what's going on and we can't really figure it out. I mean, I think we're our design, we're reviewing what's going on, and It just doesn't, it seems like we could do something to where we could get some more suggestions, more ideas, and see if there might be some common ground there, rather than just say that it's okay when we're kind of going, well, it says it doesn't really say it.
And one thing I'll add, like the suggestions of whether it's bulletproof glass, bars on the inside, this doesn't sound like something where people are just on their way to the beach and they see a liquor store and try to break the window. I think once that the people in these neighborhoods know that you're not going to get through, there's going to be less attempts at it.
That's the only reason, if I put it behind the glass, they're still going to try to break in and they don't know if there's a bar behind and right behind there's all the shelves and the liquor right behind the glass.
Well, but the point I'm making is that the people that are doing this
Live here.
and once one person sees that there's bars on either side of the glass, the word spreads pretty quick. And I know that we had a counterfeit issue at our store. Somebody successfully used one. The next day, a different person was in with one. As soon as we came up with a new store policy, guess what? We hadn't had another person come in. So, there is this network on the criminal side here in Florence that word spreads fast when measures are taken.
The last time I had the guy broke the glass, he only took like $20 bottles, and that cost me thousands just to fix that.
Could we possibly table and get some ideas for next month and review it again?
It's always the board.
If Robert's Rules of Order? I don't know.
If the applicant is agreeable to that, then that's an option.
Would you be agreeable to that?
Yeah, we could do it next month.
Yeah, basically, what we're asking is if you'll table the issue, that way that'll give you time to examine to see if there's any other options besides the bars on the outside of the windows, and then present your case again next month.
I don't think so. That was only last option. I can think about the bars, and those are like powder coating. I know how it looks. It looks not that bad, but still, I have to protect my business, somehow. Because the other day, the guy broke the glass. That cost me about $2,000, and I was there all night, just to, so nobody can get in again. That's the only reason. So if anything happened, I'm the only one who's paying for everything,
Can do we have to have windows there?
Really?
Why don't we just get rid of the windows?
What am I gonna put there?
You could basically put a piece of steel there and paint it black. It looks like a window. Just a thought.
Yeah, I could do that.
Some buildings in the downtown have faux shutters that are in place that could be a decorative option.
I think that would probably help your restaurant business too. I don't want to go to a restaurant with the bars on the windows.
No, people still come. No one complained yet, anything. I'm my business, So I've been running the restaurant for like 7 years now. Just put the windows, these bars, but I won't even know.
Yeah, you got a good following already. They're gonna come for the good food.
So, I know the city didn't want like the roll down doors, but are there, shows my lack of knowledge, but are there options where you have a window during the day and you can close something at night?
I think that was people riding by at night was kind of coming to Florence from the airport. And they were talking about that.
Well, yeah. I don't know if y'all's hours are the same as driving. Just make sure.
What about the hurricane shutters that come out at an angle and put them on top of the bar window, but the windows in the bar window behind them? Like we were going to put on.
Bahama shutters.
Save a lot.
Bahama shutters, yeah.
Which one?
It's called Bahama shutters.
Yeah.
That would look.
And that actually covers the bars.
So you wouldn't see the bar, the windows would still be there with the bars, but you wouldn't see them from the
You
street.
just see the Bahama
They have a
shutters.
slanted shutter coming out. And the would make the building look better, actually. But people, if they came around, they still couldn't access the windows.
I mean, would you be willing to price those over the next 30 days and present your case again next month?
Or I can seal it completely, I have nothing to do with the windows,
Or just like so it's just a steel.
Yeah, I can just, steel is gonna be because I spent a lot of money on the bars recently, so I could put any, I don't know, some weatherproof wood or something just to seal that. I'm fine with that,
Okay.
Just get rid of the glass or overlay, infill the glass with,
Oh, put it on the glass.
yeah, just,
Because the glass is,
or, yeah.
the glass is old,
Next
it's
to
like,
bricks, though.
I don't want to pay someone just to take out the glass and try to kind of have a lot of bottles, anything break in, that's a lot of money right there.
I mean, I know about liquor inventories. It's very expensive to keep that supply in place.
Just windows, just, yeah.
So could you take the bars off and put a steel behind and then do your advertising on there?
You said behind or?
Or just I guess my thought just do it away with the window altogether.
I mean, you don't need the light from the windows, and you got counters in front of the windows, so the windows aren't really functional in the store. So, I mean, there's some light in from the top, but you got plenty of light overhead.
I don't need light from outside.
If you took the bars off and infilled the windows with something you can't break through,
So not from outside, right?
right. So basically, it's almost, imagine putting a piece of plywood, or something looking better than just plywood, but if you fill the thing solid
Okay.
inside the window frame, and then put something on it, and paint it black or paint it, some way to that could be an option.
Yeah, I can check it.
You want to let's check that and come back in 30 days and kind of see what we got?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I can,
But the bars can remain until in the meantime.
Yeah, I mean, the bars are okay for the next 30 days.
Yeah.
I can get an estimate and just put the steel or just, if I close the whole windows, put the bricks there, I don't mind. I have nothing to do with the windows right now.
Okay. I make a motion we table this issue and take it back up in next month.
Okay.
And get some recommendations. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? The motion will be tabled, and we'll make sure you're the first case here heard in June. Okay, that is our last case, and we are adjourned. Our next scheduled meeting for the City Design Review Board is June 8th. Hope you all have a safe and happy rest of your week.